Most people spend their entire lives mistaking attachment for love. They call it devotion. They call it loyalty. But Epictetus, a man who owned nothing, not even his own body, identified this confusion as the single greatest source of human suffering. By the end of this video, I'll reveal the precise mental discipline he practiced, the one technique that allowed him to love deeply without ever being destroyed by loss.
We'll examine three things. First, why modern love has become a form of quiet enslavement, and why most people never notice. Second, the Stoic philosophy of attachment, drawn directly from Epictetus's Enchiridion and Discourses. Third, how to apply this ancient discipline in practical daily life. But the real revelation, the technique itself, waits at the very end.
Consider this. The average person reports feeling emotionally dependent on at least one other human being, to the degree that their inner peace is entirely contingent on that person's behavior. Not partially, entirely. Remove that person, and the internal architecture collapses. We have built our psychological foundations not on rock, but on other people, who are themselves unstable, impermanent, and beyond our control.
We experience this collapse in mundane moments. A partner doesn't respond to a message, and suddenly the entire day becomes unbearable. A friend withdraws their approval, and self-worth evaporates overnight. A loved one chooses a different path, and we interpret it as personal annihilation. This is not love. This is a contract, unspoken, invisible, and suffocating, that says your existence determines my peace. Epictetus saw this clearly from a vantage point none of us have experienced. He was enslaved. Born approximately 50 AD in Hierapolis, modern Turkey, he was the property of Epaphroditus, a freedman of Emperor Nero. Epictetus owned nothing, not his labor, not his time, not his body. He could not form attachments to possessions because possessions were impossible. What he cultivated instead was something indestructible. His master, Epaphroditus, once twisted Epictetus's leg as a demonstration of power. The story records that Epictetus said calmly, "You are going to break it." The leg broke. Epictetus responded, "Did I not tell you it would break?" No rage, no despair. This was not coldness. This was a man whose inner citadel had been so thoroughly constructed that physical violation could not reach what he truly considered himself to be. He walked free, spiritually, long before his legal emancipation. And it was this interior freedom that formed the absolute foundation of his philosophy. You cannot understand what Epictetus taught about love without first understanding what he taught about freedom. For him, freedom was not about circumstances. Freedom was about the jurisdiction of your own mind, what he called the hegemonikon, the governing faculty. The Enchiridion opens with one of philosophy's most consequential distinctions. Some things are in our control, and others are not. In our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion. Not in our control are body, reputation, command, and in one word, whatever are not our own actions. This dichotomy, this clean, surgical division, is the scalpel with which Epictetus performs the entire operation of his philosophy.
Now apply this to love. Other people, their feelings, their choices, their continued presence in your life fall entirely outside the circle of your control.
not mostly outside, entirely. This is not pessimism. This is precision. When you love someone while believing their behavior determines your peace, you have placed your most precious interior resource, your equanimity, in territory that was never yours to govern.
Epictetus addressed this directly in the Discourses. He wrote, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it,' but 'I have returned it.' If you love someone and they depart, through choice, through circumstance, the Stoic does not say they were taken. They say they were returned. Returned to the universe, to providence, to the impermanent flow of all things." This phrasing is not poetic consolation. It is a complete restructuring of ontological ownership.
But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Epictetus did not teach emotional detachment. He did not counsel coldness. He did not advise the Stoic to build walls against feeling. Quite the opposite. He argued that without freedom from dependence, genuine love becomes impossible. The person who needs you to stay cannot truly celebrate your freedom to go. Need corrupts love the moment it enters the room.
Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus's most consequential student at one remove, through the teacher Rusticus, who introduced him to the Discourses, wrote in his Meditations, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Marcus ruled the greatest empire on earth and still practiced this discipline nightly. He held his children, his wife Faustina, his generals, his empire, all of it, as borrowed. Not abandoned, borrowed. The Stoics called this practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. But in its application to love, it transforms into something more nuanced. It is not about imagining worst-case scenarios to numb yourself. It is about consciously holding what you love as already impermanent, thereby experiencing the full weight and miracle of its present existence. You do not love less. You love with open hands rather than clenched fists.
Epictetus used a specific metaphor that cuts to the bone. He asked his students to consider what happens at a banquet. If a dish is passed to you, take a moderate portion. If it passes you by, do not grab it back. If it has not reached you, do not project your desire onto it. Wait. The banquet is life. The dishes are people, relationships, love. The discipline is in the receiving, never in the grasping. This metaphor reveals something modern psychology has only recently begun to quantify. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby in the 1960s, distinguishes between secure and anxious attachment. Anxious attachment is characterized by precisely what Epictetus described: the compulsive grasping at the dish, the panic when it moves, the inability to allow a relationship its natural trajectory without interpreting every shift as abandonment. Seneca, Epictetus's Roman contemporary, writing approximately the same decade, expressed it with characteristic severity. Omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est. Everything is alien to us. Time alone is ours. But Seneca extended this. Even the people we love are not ours. To claim ownership of another human consciousness, even through love's most sincere vocabulary, is a philosophical error with devastating emotional consequences. Here is the profound paradox Epictetus identified. Dependence destroys the very thing it tries to protect. When you require someone's presence for your peace,
you begin unconsciously, inevitably, to control them. You create invisible chains because you are terrified of your own emptiness. You mistake your fear of solitude for love. But the person on the other end of those invisible chains feels their weight, and eventually they pull toward freedom.
Epictetus taught something he called prosoke, a Greek term meaning self-attention or self-observation. It is the practice of watching your own mind with the discipline of a scholar studying a primary text. In the domain of love, prosoke means catching yourself at the precise moment you shift from appreciation to need, from presence to possession. That moment, barely perceptible, is where slavery begins.
Wait. What comes next is what few truly understand about Epictetus's philosophy of love. Most interpreters stop at detachment. They miss the second half. Because Epictetus also taught that the Stoic must love with full presence, not from behind glass. The goal is not immunity to loss. The goal is the capacity to love completely in the present, without that love being structurally dependent on a future that cannot be guaranteed.
The practical application begins at the level of language. Epictetus was precise about words because words shape cognition. He instructed his students to replace "I love them and cannot live without them" with "I deeply value this person's presence in my life, and I hold it with gratitude." The semantic shift seems minor. The psychological shift is seismic. One statement encodes dependence. The other encodes appreciation. Same emotion, radically different architecture.
Tomorrow, when you wake up, before you reach for your device, before you check whether that person has responded, practice this. Sit with the thought, this person is not mine to keep. Their presence today is not a right, it is a gift. Say it slowly, internally, without performance. Feel the discomfort it generates. That discomfort is the precise location of your dependency. You are touching the chain, not to break it immediately, but to know exactly where it is. Epictetus recommended a 3-part daily discipline for his students. At morning, identify what you will encounter that might trigger dependency or grasping. Anticipate it with philosophical clarity. During the day, practice prosoke, catching yourself the moment desire shifts to demand. At evening, review not what others did to you, but what you chose to want, what you chose to assign your peace to. This is the Stoic examination of love.
The Stoics also taught the concept of oikeiosis, often translated as affiliation or belonging. It describes the natural human impulse toward connection, toward care for others. Epictetus never argued against this impulse. He argued for its purification. Oikeiosis, in its highest form, is love directed outward without the demand that it return. Care offered freely because the act of caring is itself an expression of virtue, not a transaction waiting for settlement.
There is a specific practice derived from Epictetus's banquet metaphor that can be applied to any close relationship. Before engaging with someone you love, before a conversation, before a reunion, pause and consciously acknowledge, this moment is complete in itself. It does not require continuation to have value. If this were the last conversation, it would still be enough. This reframe does not invite fatalism. It expels desperation. In 108 AD, when the Emperor Trajan's court was at its apex of power, Epictetus was teaching in Nicopolis, a city in northwestern Greece where he had established his school after Domitian expelled philosophers from Rome in 89 AD. His students included men of wealth, rank, and privilege. They came expecting comfort. What he offered them instead was a rigorous, often uncomfortable reckoning with their own hidden dependencies and the invisible masters they had created from their desires. One young aristocrat, recorded only as a student in the discourses, came to Epictetus weeping over a beloved sister who had fallen gravely ill. Epictetus did not comfort him with false assurance. He asked, "When you were away from her before, did she not still exist? Did your absence diminish her?" The student answered yes. Epictetus replied, "She exists now. Be present to what is, not to what you fear losing."
This exchange reveals the technique at Epictetus's core. He called it phantasia catalepticae, a Stoic term meaning the comprehensive impression, the clear perception of what actually is, rather than the distorted perception generated by desire or fear. In love, our phantasia is almost always distorted. We are not responding to the person before us. We are responding to our idea of them, our need of them, our terror of their absence.
The historical record shows that Epictetus himself experienced deep affection. Late in his life, he lived to approximately 135 AD. He adopted a friend's child who would otherwise have been abandoned and raised the child himself. A man who taught non-attachment chose to love a child completely. This is the proof. He did not avoid love. He loved as a free man loves, completely present, completely willing to let go, never requiring the child to become his peace.
His school in Nicopolis continued for decades. The biographer Simplicius wrote that Epictetus lived in remarkable simplicity: an iron lamp, a rush mat, a pallet. When a thief stole his iron lamp, Epictetus reportedly said he would replace it with an earthenware one. For a man can only lose what he has. The lamp is a symbol. Everything you believe you possess, including the presence of those you love, is borrowed iron, beautiful and temporary.
What survives of Epictetus reaches us not in his own handwriting, he wrote nothing, but through his student Arrian, who transcribed the discourses around 108 AD. That a man who left no manuscripts became one of philosophy's most enduring voices is itself a lesson. He was not attached to legacy. He loved the practice of philosophy and released the product. His wisdom returned to the world as he would have predicted, as all things return.
Now the technique, the one promised at the beginning. Epictetus called it the discipline of desire, orexis. Each morning, before engaging with anyone you love, state internally, "I desire their well-being more than I desire their presence." Read that again. Well-being over presence. It is the single sentence that separates love from possession. When you genuinely mean it, truly, not performatively, you are practicing what Epictetus spent a lifetime teaching: loving as a free person loves, completely, without chains, without conditions, and without requiring the return of anything you freely give.